This video is brought to you by Newport Propane. If you'd like to learn more about Newport Propane, you can visit them at their website or on their Facebook page, linked in the description below. So this weekend's race was phenomenal. And I'm going to skip talking about practice and qualifying. None of it really matters. The only thing that matters about this race was the race itself. This weekend we were racing at Canaan Raceway up in Canaan, New Hampshire. It's the farthest race for me to get to, but it's debatably the best track to race at. Canaan Raceway is a 1.3 mile road course, I believe, and it's meant for cars. Nothing too fast or anything like that, but it's meant for cars, for, track days, whatever else. And it makes for a really small car track, but it makes for a really big, really wide, really fast go-kart track. So basically at this track we gear our karts more towards top speed. And we're probably doing somewhere between 70 to 75 miles an hour in the World Formula class, when at other tracks we're probably only doing about 55 to 60 miles an hour. And it does take a while to get there, sure, but you do get there. When you're doing 70 miles an hour, that far off the ground, it's pretty cool. Because the track is so big and wide, most of it is flat out. And because most of it is flat out, you get pack racing. Think of like Daytona, Talladega. That's kind of what we get at Canaan with go-karts. So the nature of most races in the World Formula class that happen at Canaan are pack races where everybody's dicing for position, and first place could be separated by a second at the end of the race, and 7 guys were fighting for it. You know what I mean? 7, 8, 10 guys. That's usually how these things work. However, this race for myself and Rick Brown was a little bit different. See, the two of us started first and second. And the way they do the races at Canaan is they do half-hour races. So I started the race in first, and when the green flag dropped, I was able to get into first place and hold first place for like about a lap before Rick Brown behind me caught up to me. And somewhere on the back stretch, he came up beside me on the outside. He looks over at me and he just gives me one of these, going like this. And I looked over, I just said, okay. And basically what he was trying to tell me, and what I read correctly, thankfully, was that we should stay in line. We should not play around. We should not try to race each other. That's only going to slow each other down. Let's get in line. So what we did, basically, is stayed nose to tail for the next 25 minutes or so. And that part of the race, it's not even worth showing. You would just see me driving around the track with nobody ahead of me. That's the way we stayed for the next 25 minutes. And when we came around to the front stretch and we got that 5 minutes left to go warning, it was on. And the two of us were just dicing for position the entire time. Now, because we did remain nose to tail for the majority of the race, we had run away from the pack. Given where everybody finished behind us, I would say we probably worked it out to be around 10 to 15 seconds ahead of the rest of the pack. See, third place and back, they went ahead and tried the pack racing. They were trying to just dice for position the entire race, and nobody really was able to catch myself and Rick just staying in line, behaving, and using the draft to just get the two of us out ahead. But like I said, the last 5 minutes of that race, it was on for the win. And myself and Rick, we probably traded the lead like 5 or 6, 7, 8 times. I don't know how many times, but it was fun. Like I said, this track is made for cars, so it is really wide. But there is one part of the track that kind of seems to be kart specific. And it's a little chicane that's actually inside of a corner. And it's pretty thin like a go-kart track would be. And there's curbing. So it's a right, left, right chicane with curbing on each apex. So there's really only one line through there. And there were a couple of times that myself and Rick would actually be side by side the corner before that chicane, and it'd be like, all right, who's going to give it up? We can't go side by side through this corner. Who's going to take the lead and who's going to follow? And anytime that happened, I tried to let Rick go, and I tried to follow him through the chicane because I felt like I was very fast out of the chicane. And mechanically, I was fast too. I had my setup, my gearing, set up for acceleration versus what Rick had. I only had one more tooth on my rear sprocket than he had on his rear sprocket, and that was enough to get me better acceleration coming out of corners. So that's what I figured. Well, we're going to slow down for this. Let's take the chicane, and then I should have more acceleration coming out of the corners. And for the most part, I did. It helped out. The few times I did get back side by side with him was during the slower sections coming up to complete the lap. And Rick caught on to what I was doing, so every time we came back to that section, he would try to squeeze and try to get rid of the line I was using around the outside of the corner to get around him. And it almost worked. So on the last lap, with about 3 corners to go, we had a long sweeping right-hander, and this is right after that chicane. I again, just going around that right-hander, came around his outside just a little bit, just peeked it. I probably wasn't even side by side with him just yet. And he tried to squeeze and track out real wide, even though there's a left-hander coming up. But he knew I was going to try to go around his outside again. And I did. I was able to. He probably just left me that one cart width that I needed to get under his inside, so that going into the next left-hander, I was right under him. And it was a bit squirrely. I was getting a little out of shape. And I'm trying not to come up into Rick, you know. I don't want to be that guy who just like moves bumpers just to get the lead, you know. I tried to stay off of him, and I did. I didn't do anything to collide into him or anything like that. And we track out of that corner, and now it's just a left-hand kink to the finish line. I'm on the inside, he's on the outside. We were probably even at that point. So coming up to that last kink, I wanted to make sure I was as far inside as I could be, because I knew Rick was going to try to be as far inside as he could be without running into me. And I actually messed it up a little bit. I actually slapped the barriers just a little bit coming to the finish line. And somehow I did not lose enough momentum, and we crossed the line something like this, with myself leading and Rick finishing in second. And let me tell you, that was a hell of a great feeling when we crossed the finish line to take that win. I was absolutely ecstatic. Right after that race, you know, we gave each other a fist bump on track, and then when we came in to get weighed up, I jumped out of the car, he jumped out of the car, gave each other a big hug. He's like, dude, that was my favorite race! It was phenomenal for both ends. You know, I know he doesn't want to finish second. He wants to win the race. But I don't think he can be too mad about that race. He seemed to be ecstatic to be a part of it, you know. And I think it was a great race, too. I thought we ran a smart race, you know, just behaving the whole time and letting the others race and letting the others slow each other down to be able to make that lead, so that when it did come down to crunch time with 5 minutes to go, we could actually dice it out and have some fun. So that's it for my race recap for this weekend's race at Canaan, New Hampshire. I want to thank my sponsor, Newport Propane, as always, for giving me the support that is needed for me to do all these fun races. And I also want to thank the NHKA for putting on great events such as Kartmania this weekend and letting us have these experiences. It's just a blast to be a part of. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Have a good one.